gives history nerds an amazing place to start. Between 1438 and 1532, the Inca people blossomed from a small tribe to being South America's largest empire in the pre-Columbian era, and during its zenith, their borders even crept well into Ecuador and Chile. The first Incan emperor, Pachacuti, transformed the capital from a modest village into a great city laid out in the shape of a puma. He continued to expand the tradition of ancestor worship. Originally originated from present-day Peru. With the rampant spread of disease, countless died from infection, the nation destabilized. Also the last emperor, Atahualpa, was executed by Spanish. All that remained of the Inca was a page in history. The birth of the Aztecs remains a mystery. Nobody knows for sure where they came from, but, ultimately, the Aztecs planted their flag in the south-central region of pre-Columbian Mexico. In 1325, the ambitious tribe built the heart of their civilization, a stunning capital city called Tenochtitlan that stood steady until 1521 and still serves as the foundation for modern-day Mexico City. The city of Tenochtitlan was the military power base and became a spearhead for the conquest of new territory, but the Aztec emperor didn't rule every city or region directly. In the early 1500s, the Aztec civilization was indeed at the height of its power. But then, the Spanish arrived. This led to a huge battle between the Incas and the Spanish conquistadors and the native allies they had assembled, led by the famous Hernan Cortés in 1521. A defeat in this decisive battle eventually led to the fall of the once famous Aztec Empire. Though Rome began as a modest village along the banks of the Tiber on the Italian peninsula around 750 BC, it expanded into one of history's largest empires, spanning massive swaths of the Mediterranean and beyond. The culture is famous for its enduring monuments. Thanks to the use of special concrete as well as attention to detail, the Romans raised modern tourist magnets like the Colosseum and the Pantheon. Early Rome was governed by kings, but after only 7 of them had ruled, the people took control over their own city and ruled themselves. They introduced a council known as the Senate, which ruled over them. From this point, Rome was referred to as the Roman Republic. Rome also saw the rise and fall of some of the greatest emperors in human history, like Julius Caesar, Trajan, and Augustus. But eventually, the empire became so vast that it was simply not possible to bring it under single rule. In the end, the Roman Empire was overrun by millions of barbarians from the north and east of Europe. A series of kings forged the Persian Empire. The first, Cyrus II, started a tradition of conquering new lands. From 550 BC to 331 BC, this royal hobby of collecting new territories granted the Persians the largest empire recorded in ancient history. Their land included modern-day Egypt, Iran, Turkey, northern India, and regions inside Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Central Asia. The culture left behind great ruins, intricate metalworks, and invaluable golden treasures. Interestingly, they practiced Zoroastrianism, which remains one of the oldest religions still practiced today. The tolerant belief system was likely the reason why Cyrus II was unusual for his time, choosing to treat his defeated enemies with respect instead of brutality. A later king, Darius I, father of the movie famous Xerxes I, from the film 300, created the jaw-dropping Royal Road, a network that reached from the Aegean Sea to Iran and connected several cities through 2,400 kilometers, 1,500 miles, of paving. The Royal Road helped to establish an express mail service as well as control over a vast territory. But, unfortunately, it was also what brought Persia's doom. Alexander the Great from Macedonia used the convenient roads to trot along, conquering the Persians who were financially exhausted from the suppression of revolts among their captured states. Alexander was met with fierce resistance, but knuckled Persia into submission and ended its long and brutal reign. The ancient Greeks may not have been the oldest civilization, but they are doubtlessly one of the most influential. Even though the rise of ancient Greece came from the Cycladic and Minoan civilizations, 2700 BC to 1500 BC, there is evidence of burials in the Franchti cave in Argolid, Greece, dating back to around 7250 BC. The history of this civilization is spread over such a long period of time that historians have divided it into different periods, the most popular of them being the Archaic, Classical, and Hellenistic periods. These periods saw a number of ancient Greeks come into the limelight, many of whom changed the world forever and are still being talked about to this day. Among other things, the Greeks invented the ancient Olympics, and formed the concept of democracy and the Senate. They laid the foundations for modern geometry, biology, and physics. Pythagoras, Archimedes, Socrates, Euclid, Plato, Aristotle, Alexander the Great. The history books are full of these names whose inventions, theories, beliefs, and heroics have had a significant impact on subsequent civilizations. Ancient China, also known as Han China, comes in at number 5 and doubtlessly has one of the most diverse histories. First starting with small Neolithic villages scattered across the vast landscape, from this cradle came the famous dynasties that first sprouted along the Yellow River in the north. It was around 2700 BC that the legendary Yellow Emperor began his rule, which later led to the birth of many dynasties that went on to rule mainland China. In 2070 BC, the Xia dynasty became the first to rule the whole of China as described in ancient historical chronicles. From then on, there were a number of dynasties that held control during different periods of time until the end of the Qing dynasty in 1912 AD with the Xinhua Revolution. This marked the end of more than 4 millennia of ancient Chinese civilization. By this time, however, the Chinese had given the world some of its most useful inventions and products such as gunpowder, paper, printing, the compass, alcohol, cannons, and many more. The ancient Maya civilization flourished in Central America from about 2600 BC and has been much talked about because of the calendar it introduced. Once established, the Mayan civilization went on to prosper and become highly sophisticated with a booming population of about 19 million at its peak. By 700 BC, the Mayans had already devised their own system of writing which they used to create solar calendars carved in stone. According to them, the world was created on August 11, 3114 BC, which is the date from which their calendar begins. The supposed end date was December 21, 2012. The ancient Mayans were culturally rich compared to many of their contemporary civilizations, and the Mayans and Aztecs both built pyramids, many of which are larger than those in Egypt. But the sudden decline and abrupt end of the Mayans has long been one of ancient history's most intriguing mysteries. Why did the Mayans, a remarkably sophisticated civilization made up of more than 19 million people, suddenly collapse sometime during the 8th or 9th century? The Maya people did not disappear completely, however. Their descendants still live in parts of Central America. By 6000 BC, settlers arrived at the banks of the Nile and found an asylum from the scorching sands. They tilled the soil and built villages, and around 3100 BC, these settlements became bustling metropolises, ruled by pharaohs who acted as statesmen, declaring laws, demanding taxes, waging war and overseeing their territory, and divine intermediaries between the people and their deities. The Egyptians thrived for thousands of years under the pharaohs and found fame for their advances in several fields of knowledge. For instance, they possessed a vast awareness of what became arithmetic, astronomy and anatomy, and were credited with inventing medical surgery thanks to their skills in stitching wounds and setting broken bones. It's actually theorized that their mummification practices influenced their medical talents. The ancient Egyptians were also prolific writers. They independently invented a system of hieroglyphics featuring hundreds, if not thousands, of alphabetic, syllabic and logographic characters that they inscribed in stone. This early civilization also pioneered several derivative scripts that were written across papyrus, a tough material made from the pith of plants found throughout the floodplains. Above all, the people of ancient Egypt proved to be skilled builders. Their temples and tombs are considered among the grandest constructions ever executed, and their monuments such as the Great Sphinx and the pyramids at Giza still remind us of their early ingenuity. One of the oldest civilizations on this list, the Indus Valley Civilization, lies at the very heart of subsequent civilizations that arose in the region of the Indus Valley. This civilization flourished in areas extending from what is today northeast Afghanistan to Pakistan and northwest India. Along with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, it was one of 3 early civilizations of the ancient world, and of the 3, it was the most widespread, covering an area of 1.25 million kilometers. Entire populations were settled in the Indus River basin, one of the major rivers in Asia, and another river named Gagahakra which once used to flow through northeast India and eastern Pakistan, also known as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, and their settlements for instance, housed approximately 40,000 to 50,000 individuals and featured baked brick buildings. Sophisticated sewer and water supply systems kept these cities clean, and their spacious streets formed a strict grid structure suggesting these sites were meticulously planned. The people of the Indus Valley Civilization achieved great accuracy in measuring length, mass, and time, and based on artifacts found in excavations, it is evident that the culture was rich in arts and crafts as well. And here it is, the first civilization to have ever emerged. The origin of Mesopotamia dates back so far that there is no known evidence of any other civilized society before them. The timeline of ancient Mesopotamia is usually held to be from around 3300 BC to 750 BC, meaning the land between rivers in ancient Greek. Mesopotamia was a region, not a single civilization, and several cultures benefited from the fertile lands that today include Southwest Asia and swathes along the eastern Mediterranean Ocean. It was somewhere around 8000 BC that people developed the idea of agriculture and slowly started to domesticate animals for both food and to assist in farming. They prospered in the regions of modern-day Iraq, then known as Babylonia, Sumer, and the Assyria highlands. Mesopotamia is credited with the beginnings of human civilization and many things that would change the world: the invention of time, the wheel, mathematics, maps, writing, and sailboats. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like the content, then comment from which civilization you are. And if you want more content like this, please do like, share and subscribe my channel.